Welcome to another Road to Hollywood. We thank you so much for tuning in. We've got so much to celebrate tonight. It's been an amazing year for independent artists, music, labels, technology. So much changing, all for the good for you, the music fan, the music participant. Whether you make music, you write, produce, run labels, shoot videos, you're in the right place. We, each and every week, feature special guests, and tonight, it's no exception. We're not only celebrating an incredible year where independent artists like Macklemore hit #1 on the radio charts and is cleaning up with the BET Awards, American Music Awards, and up for Album of the Year at the Grammys, in addition to Best New Artist, Best Tracks. Independent artists like Jay-Z. Yes, Jay-Z is an independent artist, owns his own masters, runs Rock Nation, signing amazing and developing artists. And what a celebration. This year, you had labels like TDE, MMG, Rock Nation, Grand Hustle, CTE, E1, and tonight we turn the spotlight on an amazing label group. They are called RBC, and they are behind the label management and so much more for people like Tech9 with Strange Music and the amazing catalog and roster they have. Of course, with E40, who's just released his 20th album in 3 years, if you can believe that. And that's not mixtapes, folks. That is hardcore, 20 tracks, major production, superstar special features, and all of that. And they're also behind Too Short, DJ Quick, Bone Thugs and Harmony, solo stuff, a lot more. We're going to be talking about all that and the state of the industry tonight with our special guest from RBC. Please welcome Jakori Lamot.
What's going on?
Thank you so much for tuning in. Give us an idea, you know, how you dedicated, how you decided to make music your career, and how you ended up with a great, great company like RBC.
So basically, I always had a passion for music. I was always around it growing up. My dad was a drummer in a band, so I was always hearing beats and music in the house. So I always felt that that was my belonging, really. I always felt that I had a knowledge of where the game was going, really with hip hop more so than anything. I was into everything. I was into rock. I was even into classical. But I really, really had an attachment to hip hop and the culture and everything. So I wanted to go and do the regular business administration route and get a degree and do all that and do things the quote unquote normal way or the quote unquote right way or whatever. And I just had an epiphany while I was in sociology class, like, this is not what I want to do. This is not where I want to be. I don't know why I'm here. I'm thinking about music right now. Yeah. So I saw a commercial for MI, and I was like, you know what, that's what I wanted to do. And I went for it. I got an internship while I was at MI at RBC, and they told me I killed it as an intern. Probably they said I was the best one ever, and I didn't feel like I was working that hard, really. So they gave me a shot. And then they sent me out to pay dues, and then I brought in Casey Veggies after paid dues, and they were like, yeah, they kind of brushed him off like, oh, well, this kid's nobody right now, and then he ended up being Casey Veggies, and so they were like, oh, this kid knows what he's talking about, let's give him a shot, and then take it from there.
That's great stuff. Again, our RBC is headed by great people, Brian Shaft and Ben Grossi. We're going to be featuring interviews with them on tonight's show. These are guys that came from major label systems like Priority Records, who of course launched NWA and Ice Cube and Dr. Dre and so much more, Master P and the whole No Limit thing. And I know Brian spent some time at Virgin. They had, all the guys came from these systems where they saw how the music business used to be. And they saw that there was big changes in the works. Not only was the Priorities of the world getting gobbled up by EMI, but the Def Jams were getting gobbled up by Universal, along with the Interscopes and the Islands and the Geffens. All these labels were all becoming very attractive to this big kind of Wall Street takeover, and that left the creative artists behind, because as these companies get bigger and bigger, they expect huge sales. They can't tolerate. If you went gold on one album, you got to go platinum on the next. If you went platinum, they expect double platinum. Heaven forbid you're developing your fan base and you've only got 200,000 sales. They laugh at that. Whereas opposed to the independent business, when you break all that down and become a cost-effective business like Strange Music has, and a lot of the labels that RBC helps manage, it becomes very profitable. Even if you're out there selling 50, 60, 70, 80,000 copies can really be monetized with so many of the other ways, being on the road, your merchandising, all these different type of licensing deals, soundtracks, all that. So from your perspective, Jakori, tell us about kind of that day-to-day, seeing what you're learning on how these companies like Strange Music are killing it. You don't hear them, you're starting to break through now, but you didn't hear them traditionally on your big stations, your Power 106 and Hot 97s. You weren't seeing their videos in regular rotation on BT, but somehow or another, at the end of the year, they're making tens of millions of dollars. They're generating big tours. The fan bases are very loyal. What is your perspective on again, how these indies are just killing it now?
Well, really, Strange Music is just the standard in my eyes as far as like a hip hop independent label. I mean, Tech Nine has a 20+ career. And he's built that over years and years and years and passion, and he's built his fan base. He goes out there and touches people. He's touring. I think he toured 200+ dates this year, and he's just constantly on the road. So really, I mean, all these majors really have come to Tech Nine, and they were like, "Yo, let's do something. Let's sign you. Let's make something happen. We give you all this money." Da 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 da. And he's just like, "Well, what do I need you now for? I have this great infrastructure. I have a great business model. I have warehouses of clothes and merch and tour buses and everything." It's just like he's just the guy that you look to. Well, and Travis really those are the guys that you look to be like, that's how you do it. Is just own everything, own your master, own your publishing, put out records when you want to put them out, go on tour when you want to go on tour, sell the merch at however you want to do it. They're just their own boss, and that's just something that I've admired with Strange Music, and I want other artists to emulate.
Yeah, it's back to really what we like to call artist development, because when these big corporations bought up the Def Jams and Islands and Interscopes, first thing they do is they get rid of most of the development people.
Yeah,
they keep the sales guys, they keep the radio guys, and not much more in between. So back, we always knew the classic tales of Motown, where they taught you to sing and dance and give interviews and all. Forget about that.
They just don't have time for that.
No, they expect you to be like ready to go to radio, have a hit, sell millions of copies, and keep your ass on the road. Other than that, what are we talking about? The horror stories of most of those artists getting signed to a major that got stuck on a shelf because the A&R guy, got fired or he moved companies.
Yeah,
and all those scenarios where these independent acts were on a trajectory of going global. They're just about to go bananas. Majors came in, offer them a deal, and the career was over.
I mean, there's a totem pole effect. I mean, if you're a developing artist, and a major signs you and gives you $75,000 and like, yo, we're gonna make you a superstar, and you don't deliver that single or you don't deliver that hit or whatever, and Drake needs something, you're on the bottom of the totem pole. They're forgetting about you. You gotta basically, like nowadays, cats put out like mixtapes and try to get a single off of mixtapes to just kind of gauge things, to gauge what's going on and keep their buzz up or whatever. And a lot of that's just them. They're doing it independently anyway. They just got that $50,000, $75,000 budget or whatever. So I mean, I don't see why developing artists would sign to a major unless you're on the level of Drake, or you got the buzz up like Drake did when he first dropped or whatever. So I just don't see why people will do that.
Well, even Drake, they put the mixtape out there and built the buzz.
Yeah.
And then kind of looked at their options, or more importantly, created leverage.
Yeah, exactly.
So they could come in and say, okay, this is what we want. Here's how we want to be treated. This is what we need. This is what we don't need.
Right.
So they could kind of create a better scenario. And we're seeing that more and more in the indie world, where you've got the time to develop. Now with so many tools with the internet and YouTube, and you can get out there and build that base without having to be under pressure of like, okay, first week SoundScan, did we hit 1 million? I mean, how many artists in history have ever done that? But the majors literally expect that every time now. And that's why we saw the changing of the guard. Now, when you look at a label like TDE, they operate like an indie. Right. They're developing very slowly after Kendrick Lamar. you know, the Schoolboy Q's and the Absols, and giving J-Rock his next shot at it.
Right.
And it's really a slow build, but they have a major behind them. So when it is time to release a Kendrick, they've got the radio push. They got the push to retail. They have all that. So it's kind of like a, you know, mini major. You know, it's an independent attitude with a major cosign.
Right.
So we're seeing more and more of these hybrids like that. You know, when not only a company like, you know, RBC puts out in tandem with Strange Music a new release, you're seeing, again, people really bucking the system. Not only did Beyonce just buck it now.
Bucked it hard.
By releasing an album that no one was prepared for, no one even knew. She's selling 1 million. She went platinum in a week.
It's crazy.
You know, and that's
beautiful.
mainly on iTunes, you know.
Beautiful.
Not even available in the stores. But you're seeing that more and more. When we come back, we're going to be talking about other people bucking the system. The Nipsey Hussle is coming out with his $100 mixtape. You know, the Macklemores, and how they went top of the charts on radio with no major behind them. So much more coming up. Again, our spotlight this week is on RBC, the great label group, right here, based in Southern California, taking this music to the world. Right now, we're going to go to an interview with one of the chief CEOs. It's Brian Shafton. He's talking about the nature of the business and how RBC is set up to help artists create their empires. Coming right back after this.
Sorry for moving around so much. I got
Okay, we are deep in the hallowed halls of RBC Records. So good to be here. How you doing, Brian?
Excellent. Thanks for coming down, Jay. Really appreciate
It's our pleasure. It's so great to, again, shake the hands and be right here where it all goes down. Give us a brief background on how you and your partners, you know, formed the label and basically what you guys provide in the industry.
Well, about 12 years ago, after I left a decade at Priority Records, we started RBC Records with the intent of helping artists be heard that didn't fit the major label mold. So specifically, we were looking for larger independent artists that didn't have a deal that the majors couldn't serve, but we knew had a voice and also had commercial viability. So what we did is we were able to take these artists and hook them up with distribution, arrange for financing, distribution. With the money that was given to us, we would hire various consultants from radio to video to publicity, A to Z. We would oversee them and have the projects run by these people as we oversaw and quarterback the whole situation. We've had tremendous success. We have about 20 labels that we currently do this for, including Strange Music, which is Tech 9, Heavy on the Grind, E40, Too Short, DJ Quick, Trill, which has Boozy and Webby, literally the full gamut, where we represent about 10% of all of the independent hip-hop sold in the country.
Wow. Now let's talk a little bit about Strange Music. Obviously Tech 9 had been on a couple major labels. I think he said one of them didn't even put the record out. I mean, got lost in the shuffle. And basically, what was his plan? Because obviously he's done this without major play. So was touring the plan from the beginning, or is that just how he found his audience?
Well, I mean, he had major label deals, but like you said, nothing was ever put out. So he just said, screw it, I'm going to do it myself. And in so doing, he really found this formula that was unbelievable. In particular, he had an amazing live show and was able to fully capitalize on that. And now he's doing 200 plus shows a year live. And that's given him an unbelievable platform, not only to sell his music, but his whole lifestyle, merch, t-shirts, hats, underwear, whatever it is, to a whole fan base. And it's worked out incredibly well for him. Now every major label is sitting here trying to sign him. And his answer is, what can you do for me that I don't already have done for myself? So there's no way he's going to relinquish that control or that money. I mean, it makes too much sense for him to keep himself independent, keep himself real and true to himself, and also true to the music business, or the business of music. Yeah.
Now, obviously, they've built their whole, infrastructure. They've got their studios and their merchandising departments and all that. And I know you just came back from the Strange Music Convention. So give an idea to the viewers out there, really what it takes, or in their case, the commitment they've made to really build their own industry, so to speak.
the most important thing is the grind. If you're not willing to work, you have no business being in the independent game. You have to be able to work. So when I say work, 200 tours a year or 200 show dates a year, that's one part of what Tech Nine does. He's also going into the studio to make music. He's also doing videos. Well, big focus for us this year was how to really monetize those videos through YouTube and through Vivo and other sources as well. It's a constant grind. It's constantly working. It's constantly taking what you have and turning it into something greater. It's having all of our minds come together, talk about what we're doing as individuals, and see how we can make it as a bigger platform for us as a bigger company. And that's what we've been able to do with Tech. We gave him his first gold single for Caribou Lou. He broke the Guinness Book of World Records with doing 100 shows in about 110 days. So the guy's off and running.
The company was started by myself, Brian Shafton, who you just spoke with, and Bob Grassi about 12 years ago. We all formerly worked at Priority Records. When Priority was sold in pieces to EMI, and the last piece was sold in about 2000, 2001, they basically folded all the staff into Capitol because they didn't need the redundancy of two staffs doing the same thing. We left and we started RBC with the intention of, because of all the digital piracy and the decline in the physical CD sale of CDs, a lot of artists that were still viable in the marketplace maybe didn't fit the major label mold. So what we did is we started RBC with the intention of taking all these artists in the hip hop realm, because that's where a lot of our contacts were from being at Priority, and getting them their own distribution, independent distribution deal direct with the distributors, cutting out the middlemen, and then we would run the business on their behalf. They were free to make the music, do the touring, and like I said, had already had an established fan base, so they were valuable in the marketplace. And we would run the business infrastructure, handle the rollout to physical, digital, mobile retail, make sure all the accounting was doing, hire outside contractors like radio, video, publicity people, and just oversee the execution of the release, aside from making the music, which that's what the artist did. So that was basically the original incarnation of RBC. And then in 2006, there was an opportunity where there was a lot of artists that weren't big enough to do their own independent situation at a distributor, but were still valuable to us. So we formed our own wholly owned label, RBC, which is distributed by E1 to do a lot of one-off projects for artists that came our way in that capacity.
Okay. And it's back to the road to Hollywood. That is Ben and Brian from RBC. Our guest tonight is Jakori, and we are putting the spotlight on this amazing company. Again, IES, the road to Hollywood, we're all about celebrating the independents, the entrepreneurs that are really out there, giving the fans ultimately what they want. And we talked a lot right there about Tech Nine, Strange Music. Let's talk a little bit about E40. Jakori, I know just this week, E40 released another 3 records on the same day.
Oh, man.
We know a major would never hear of it. As a matter of fact, I always like to say that he's probably doing, profit-wise, he's probably doing like 30 times, maybe 50 times the amount of profit right now than what he was doing on Warner Brothers 3-4 years ago.
I mean, when My Ghetto Report Card came out, that was probably his most commercially successful record. But he's making more money with RBC than he's ever made in his career ever. So, and he's the boss. He's his own boss. He tells us what to do. Really, we execute his dreams and his plans. So, if he was at a major and he wanted to put out 3 records, you know what I mean? They would probably ask him to condense it all into one. But he wants to, feed his fans so much, and it's his call, and it's our job to execute his plan. So, it's just crazy what E40's doing, and the control he has over heavy on the grind and sick with it. It's really beautiful, man.
Yeah, it's one thing that these artists, they churn out these mixtapes that are usually just some beats they got off the internet. They just bang the stuff out one night when they were high, hanging out at the pad. And there's really not a lot of thought towards it. But when you're talking about these E40 records that just, again, 20 in 3 years, talking about the Guinness Book of World Record, he is... Number one, it's quality. There's 20 tracks on most of those. Yeah. It's major production from, viable producers in the game.
Right.
and he's got the features. Not only is he a superstar himself, but he's got everybody in the business on these albums with him. So it's an amazing output.
Hey, that's how he's stayed relevant. It's skewing young. Before he knows he's not a young cat anymore, but he still spits like better than a lot of cats that are coming up right now. But he knows that it's a digital age. I was just at his video shoot for Chitty Bang, or Chitty Bang, I think it's just Chitty Bang, and he has Ty Dolla $ign on the record and he has Juicy J on the record. Now Juicy J is old too, but him going with Ty Dolla $ign, that touches a younger fan base. That's gonna make radio like him a little bit better. You know what I mean? So he gets it, and the fact that he knows how to stay relevant, and he knows what kind of beats to get, and he knows what kind of features to get, and he knows what his fan base is looking for. He knows he doesn't put out mixtapes like other artists do. So he knows how to keep his name relevant, and he knows how to make great music.
Yeah, well, that's what's amazing. He's a veteran. A lot of people of his era are considered washed up. You're passe, you're out to pasture. Yeah, you're set in your ways. With him, he's got that OG status, like a Bun B or someone, like a Dr. Dre, who he gets on the phone with these guys, of course, Ty Dolla $ign or Juicy J or Rick Ross or, whoever it is out there, they want to show their support for someone. Also, the new guys coming up, they may be listen to his music as they grew up, or their older brother and sister was banging his music. So now all of a sudden it's exciting for them to be a part of that legend who they grew up with, that once roamed with the Tupacs and again the Snoop Dogg and all these people from their era. So it's amazing that he's bridged the gap. I know when he came out with the 2 albums a few months ago with Too Short, one was for the younger crowd, the function music, and one was for the mob music, for the classic. The guys that want the Dre and Snoop, the Cypress Hills, the DJ Quicks, they want that sound, like we're talking about with a station like K-Day, is find that balance between the classics but support the new music, because just like Kendrick Lamar came out, we're going to be talking about Nipsey Hussle and his movement and the Proud to Pay movement and what exciting things that are going on that the majors can't even grasp. And again, our focus tonight is all about independent music, the independent industry. We're celebrating an amazing year of so many breakthrough artists, so much great stuff, with RBC. Right now we're going to go back to join our interview in progress. This is Ben Grossi, this is Brian Shafton. These are some of the major chief executives at RBC making these moves behind Strange Music. Of course, Heavy on the Grind, Sick With It, Up All Night, all the great labels. Coming right back with more on the road to Hollywood. Well, it seemed like a real perfect time because, again, the majors are real quick to drop an artist if each record isn't getting bigger and bigger.
Exactly.
They still have a core fan base in the streets, and now the internet has basically linked up that fan base where you don't need the big-time radio hit to let those fans know the product's there.
Absolutely. There's a ton of artists out there around this time that were getting dropped, as you mentioned, from the majors, but we could still sell anywhere from 10,000 to 400,000 copies of albums. And for a small company like us, there's a lot of money that they're leaving on the table there. And with the advent of all the social networks, the Facebooks, the Twitters, the Instagrams, all this stuff, it allowed us to really level the playing field with the majors up as opposed to just the radio and video element. And with the YouTubes out there and the digital revolution in the music business, it really allowed us to compete at a level where our artists and us could all make a living doing this and do it for a long time. The majors still have a stranglehold on radio and video, but aside from that, there's a lot of areas that an independent label can win at and compete with the majors on an array of different levels.
Well, obviously you're seeing that with your greatest success with Tech Nine, with a constant touring schedule and a very deep, loyal underground fan base that wants the merchandise, that wants to follow every move, and now that's spinning off to his other, rosters, with a great camp that he's built. Talk a little bit about behind the scenes. What are the greatest elements besides a great artist, a great show, and music that really built the Strange Music empire?
Well, I mean, 100% it's touring. I mean, Tech is is the poster child of touring. He is a road dog. He doesn't want to be in Kansas City. He wants to be on the road. He does more than 200 shows a year, and that is hands down the secret to his success. While you know, that is the way he's been able to build an enormous loyal fan base that buys all of his albums, buys his merchandise, and he has never had a radio hit. He's never had a video hit. We've had some success on MTV Jams and stuff like that, but 100% the fact that he's surrounded by a great team and the fact that he's willing to work hard and tour is the secret to Tech Nine's success. 100%. I have to say that touring is absolutely crucial for an artist that's trying to develop a fan base. You got to get out there and touch the people. You got to get out there in front of them, and you got to have a great live show. And Tech has all of those things.
Well, I know he's in-house with his booking now. Was it always that way, or did he have an outside agent, but they found that they could control the situation better in-house?
Travis, who's the owner of Strange Music and Tech's partner, is very hands-on. He likes to have control over any and everything. So having the booking in-house, it allows them to keep more of the revenue themselves as opposed to paying an agency, and it allows them to control everything as well, negotiate their own deals with the promoters and do all that kind of stuff. So it was definitely a wise move, and it allows them to, like I said, control all aspects of their business.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, these days there's been an erosion of physical retail, even though those retailers that are hanging in there are obviously very open to independent releases and, you know, artists with a history. What are some of the other elements of the traditional music business from the Priority days that you still utilize today?
Well, when it comes to physical retail, the Best Buys, the Transworlds, the Hastings, the Targets of the world, there's still a lot of retail marketing you can do through co-op advertising. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, the distributors used to have FMRs, which are field merchandising reps, which when you booked a program, they would have people throughout the country that would go in and check compliances at places like Best Buy. Mm-hmm. Make sure that if you bought the Powerwall, that your CD was properly put there, that the money that you spent was being, the compliance was there.
Yeah.
Because of the decline in the music business, those kind of people no longer exist anymore. So it's very difficult for us when we do co-op advertising programs, we run print ads and circulars and stuff like that, to check whether the compliance is there. But that's one of the ways to market your releases at retail that has existed in the past, and that we still utilize today.
Mm-hmm. And obviously the internet's the big thing, and it's more and more of a visual world, whether it's your live show or your internet presence. What are some of the other success stories or elements that some of your artists are using to get the word out on a new release?
Well, certainly, the social networks are enormous. Tech and Strange Music are, in my opinion, the best at it. They've got an entire team out there in Kansas City, an entire social networking team. While that is really Tech on Facebook and Twitter, he's also got people that have access to his accounts that can handle the marketing of the releases, the posting of the iTunes links, the calls to action to go get Best Buy, to go pick up let's meet our thresholds at Best Buy, make sure you pick up the record there, make sure you pick it up at FWA. It's one of those ways that allows you to directly hit your fans and deliver a call to action to try to get them to do something. So that has been an enormous way. Plus, retail now, the iTunes of the world, the Google Plays, the Best Buys, they want to see us posting stuff to our social networks. Go to Best Buy and so we're going to have it in store there. So we send screenshots to the buyers at all these places to make sure we're doing this, and that in turn allows them to reciprocate and give us additional exposure as well.
Mm-hmm. That's exciting. I mean, you must have dreamed about that in the record companies of the past, that you could actually cut out all these layers in the middle that cost so much money, mm-hmm. and were filters and gatekeepers to actually get to the people that really mattered, and that's right. The people that were buying the music.
And what's also great about this is that it allows us to engage the fans in stuff. Who do you want to see on the next record? Well, what kind of music do you want to see on the next record? And then we can custom make stuff that we already know that they want. Where do you want to see Tech perform that he hasn't performed? What market? All these kinds of things allows us to poll our fans and get instant feedback from them about how we're going to prepare future releases, future content, and this kind of thing. So I think that's very, very key to.
Welcome back to The Road to Hollywood. Amazing information right there. That is Ben and Brian from RBC. We're celebrating the great label and the success that this has. Again, our our guest tonight is Jakori. He's a core member of that RBC team. He's involved in the A&R, the developing of some of the new projects, keeping the new projects coming in, and coordinating some of these projects. Jakori, tell us a little bit about the mindset it takes to be inside that pressure cooker. That these labels, like we just heard about Strange Music, we know E40 and Charlie Hustle, what he's all about. All these guys again have expectations, and in the past they had major labels that had hundreds and hundreds of employees.
Right.
Now you've got a core handful of people that delegate to, of course, a lot of specialists, a lot of media specialists or publicists or radio promoters or different things. Tell us about the mindset it takes and what an average day is like to be able to move these projects forward and to be able to be that giant killer, to do what it used to take 100 people to do.
Well, I think Brian kind of nailed it. Well, to be an artist, an independent artist, and you want to be successful, you got to have a serious work ethic. To work at an independent label and juggle, I think I'm juggling literally 10 different projects right now. Like I have to quarterback. I got to have a certain level of work ethic. So attention to detail, and it's really organization. It's really, you got to be organized. You got to be on the ball. You got to know what you're doing. You got to listen to people. You got to be able to take flack when you need to. You can't have any kind of thin skin at all. But it all just comes down to organization and work ethic. If you don't have it, you're not going to survive. And I think that's why they brought me on as an intern, because that's what, again, they told me I worked harder than a lot of interns that ever came from MI or whatever. And I didn't even really feel like I was working that hard. But then I got the job, and then I felt what it is to really, really work hard and have people rely on you and have artists rely on you. And E40 can come down to the office and if he has a problem with us. You know what I mean? Like this is not, we don't have people at the door telling no, you can't come up. We want to have the relationship with the artists that they feel comfortable coming to talk to us and being able to keep it real and keep it 100 with us. So and that keeps you really, really on the ball, because you don't want to have any bad reputations with any artist that you work with. So it just keeps you really, really humble. It keeps you like I said, it just keeps you on the ball, because that's just the way the game is. If you want to be independent, you got to have that hustle.
Well, that's amazing, because, again, we use a lot of analogies like sports, and you see these teams right now gearing up to try and get in the Super Bowl and get in the playoffs.
Eagles all day.
Or politics. It's kind of like running for president, You saw the incredible campaign that Romney put up. He spent over $1 billion, had all of that activity, and still lost.
Yep. So
you can imagine the amount of coordination, the amount of passion, the amount of commitment, dedication, and focus it takes. Again, we call it the giant killers, because when you see a artist like a Tech Nine or a Macklemore, or of course, what Jay-Z's doing is unbelievable, or any of these guys, Kendrick Lamar, Mac Miller, so many of the independent artists, you got the Wu-Tangs all the way up to the new guys coming out that fill 29,000 people at paid dues, that fill 20,000 people at Rock the Bells. And these aren't people on major labels. So it's amazing to see that attitude. It's kind of like in sports. It's like the walk-on guy. He wasn't drafted number one, but all of a sudden
he just starts balling.
He's the starting quarterback. and now he's taking his team to the Super Bowl. That's what we always root for. So it's very exciting to see that mindset. Again, Priority Records and Def Jam, these were, very incredible labels that had rich histories, but they were started by risk takers. Wow. When Russell Simmons and Rick Rubin started in Rick's dorm room in Columbia University, or when Brian Turner and Mike Cerami were working at KTEL licensing songs and decided it's the right time, and ended up with an artist like NWA launching the careers of Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, Eazy-E, MC Ren. These are amazing times. And, so often, we saw the end of Priority when they got gobbled up under EMI. Where are they now? They made an announcement a couple months ago, okay, we're coming out, we're an EDM label now. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, it's crickets and tumbleweeds.
Yeah, please, just let it ride, let it rest. And just like Def Jam, it's like you look at the storied history of what they built, with the LL Cool J's and the Public Enemies and, so many great artists. And then you start to see it just become a factory of spitting out the flavor of the week artists. And that is something about, a great independent label and artist, the magic of creativity that, one lifts the other, and then this one paces the next, and before you know it, they're clicking on all cylinders. Yeah. They're putting out some of the greatest music in the world. I always feel that the artist fans really appreciate them more if they know they're putting more of themselves into the music. Absolutely. As opposed to going through a big corporate grind, and it's like, okay, I'm getting 40% E40, I'm getting 30% Warner, and I'm getting another 30% over here with some technical advisors that are telling them, okay, what kind of song to make and what tempo does it have to be, and what's the name of the album going to be. How can you tell someone that is purely into what they're doing, how to operate, what they do, and that's so important.
That's what I love about RBC is we don't tell an artist what to do with their music. Like, I'm not a rapper. Like, I love rap, but I'm not a rapper. Like, Brian's a 40-plus-year-old Jewish guy. He's not telling E40 how to make a record. Sure. E40 knows his fan base. Tech Nine knows his fan base. They know what type of music that their fan bases want. So who are we to tell them what to do with their art? And that's a beauty of moving independently.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, what's important is to offer the resources. Find out what independent channels, opportunities, platforms, programs are available for these people that are so deep into what they do. They know their audience. Yep. They have a vision on what the next step is in their career. Yep. They know what kind of touring schedule or imagery or catchphrases or anything that they want to utilize in that campaign to make it stand out. And a company like RBC is transparent. They're behind the scene. Most of the fans don't even know what RBC is. But they know Strange Music. They know Tech Nine. They know E40. But behind the machine is a well-crafted team. And of course, like Brian said, and Ben, that you're utilizing the E1s, you're utilizing the Ingrooves Fontanas, you're utilizing EMIs, these companies and platforms, but you're telling them what to do. Yeah. Sure, they earn their little share, but just like Jay-Z, he's got Universal working for him. Exactly. Macklemore's got ADA and Warner working for him. Right. So we're going to go back to a little more video clip here, a little more interview with the heads of the company. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the amazing success story that Macklemore had this year and what's in store for independent artists coming up in the new year. Thank you so much for tuning in. Coming right back with more on the Road to Hollywood. Well, it seemed like a real perfect time because, again, the majors are real quick to drop an artist if each record isn't getting bigger and bigger.
Exactly.
They still have a core fan base in the streets, and now the internet has basically linked up that fan base where you don't need the big-time radio hit to let those fans know the product's there.
Absolutely. There's a ton of artists out there around this time that were getting dropped, as you mentioned, from the majors, but could still sell anywhere from 10,000 to 400,000 copies of albums. And for a small company like us, there's a lot of money that they're leaving on the table there. And with the advent of all the social networks, the Facebooks, the Twitters, the Instagrams, all this stuff, it allowed us to really level the playing field with the majors up as opposed to just the radio and video element. And with the YouTubes out there and the digital revolution in the music business, it really allowed us to compete at a level where our artists and us could all make a living doing this and do it for a long time. The majors still have a stranglehold on radio and video, but aside from that, there's a lot of areas that an independent label can win at and compete with the majors on an array of different levels.
Well, obviously you're seeing that with your greatest success with Tech Nine, with a constant touring schedule and a very deep, loyal underground fan base that wants the merchandise, that wants to follow every move, and now that's spinning off to his other, rosters. with a great camp that he's built. Talk a little bit about behind the scenes. What are the greatest elements besides a great artist, a great show, and music that really built the Strange Music empire?
Well, I mean, 100% it's touring. I mean, Tech is the poster child of touring. He is a road dog. He doesn't want to be in Kansas City. He wants to be on the road. He does more than 200 shows a year, and that is hands down the secret to his success. While that is the way he's been able to build an enormous loyal fan base that buys all of his albums, buys his merchandise, and he has never had a radio hit. He's never had a video hit. We've had some success on MTV Jams and stuff like that, but 100% the fact that he's surrounded by a great team and the fact that he's willing to work hard and tour is the secret to Tech Nine's success. 100%. I have to say that touring is absolutely crucial for an artist that's trying to develop a fan base. You got to get out there and touch the people. You got to get out there in front of them, and you got to have a great live show. And Tech has all of those things.
Well, I know he's in-house with his booking now. Was it always that way, or did he have an outside agent, but they found that they could control the situation better in-house?
Travis, who's the owner of Strange Music and Tech's partner, is very hands-on. He likes to have control over any and everything. So having the booking in-house, it allows them to keep more of the revenue themselves as opposed to paying an agency, and it allows them to control everything as well, negotiate their own deals with the promoters and do all that kind of stuff. So it was definitely a wise move, and it allows them to, like I said, control all aspects of their business.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, these days there's been an erosion of physical retail, even though those retailers that are hanging in there are obviously very open to independent releases and artists with a history. What are some of the other elements of the traditional music business from the Priority days that you still utilize today?
Well, when it comes to physical retail, the Best Buys, the Transworlds, the Hastings, the Targets of the world, there's still a lot of retail marketing you can do through co-op advertising. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, the distributors used to have FMRs, which are field merchandising reps, which when you booked a program, they would have people throughout the country that would go in and check compliances at places like Best Buy. Mm-hmm. Make sure that if you bought the Powerwall, that your CD was properly put there, that the money that you spent was being, the compliance was there.
Yeah.
Because of the decline in the music business, those kind of people no longer exist anymore. So it's very difficult for us when we do co-op advertising programs, we run print ads and circulars and stuff like that, to check whether the compliance is there. But that's one of the ways to market your releases at retail that has existed in the past, and that we still utilize today.
Mm-hmm. And obviously the internet's the big thing, and it's more and more of a visual world, whether it's your live show or your internet presence. What are some of the other success stories or elements that some of your artists are using to get the word out on a new release?
Well, certainly, the social networks are enormous. Tech and Strange Music are, in my opinion, the best at it. They've got an entire team out there in Kansas City, an entire social networking team. While that is really Tech on Facebook and Twitter, he's also got people that have access to his accounts that can handle the marketing of the releases, the posting of the iTunes links, the calls to action to go get Best Buy, to go pick up let's meet our thresholds at Best Buy, make sure you pick up the record there, make sure you pick it up at FWA. It's one of those ways that allows you to directly hit your fans and deliver a call to action to try to get them to do something. So that has been an enormous way. Plus, retail now, the iTunes of the world, the Google Plays, the Best Buys, they want to see us posting stuff to our social networks. Go to Best Buy and so we're going to have an in-store there. So we send screenshots to the buyers at all these places to make sure we're doing this, and that in turn allows them to reciprocate and give us additional exposure as well.
Mm-hmm. That's exciting. I mean, you must have dreamed about that in the record companies of the past, that you could actually cut out all these layers in the middle that cost so much money, mm-hmm. and were filters and gatekeepers to actually get to the people that really mattered, and that's right. The people that were buying the music.
And what's also great about this is that it allows us to engage the fans in stuff. Who do you want to see on the next record? What kind of music do you want to see on the next record? And then we can custom make stuff that we already know that they want. Where do you want to see Tech perform that he hasn't performed? What market? All these kinds of things allows us to poll our fans and get instant feedback from them about how we're going to prepare future releases, future content, and this kind of thing. So I think that's very, very key to that whole thing.
Welcome back to The Road to Hollywood. Again, great information from RBC, Ben Grossi, Brian Shafton. Our live guest this week is Jakori Lamot. He is one of the A&R reps. He's a project coordinator. Jakori, let's talk a little bit about, some of the breakthroughs this year and just the student of the game mindset that it takes. When I first saw Nipsey Hussle coming up, I thought, okay, another ex-gangbanger, knucklehead.
Same old.
Yeah, just, shoot him up in the club and all that. And lately, my attitude has greatly changed. Not only what he's come out with the $100 mixtape with Crenshaw, but I'm reading an interview even today where he's got a voracious appetite to read.
Yeah.
You think of his audience almost being semi-illiterate in a lot of cases where, education's not cool, but the partying and the gangbanging and everything is it. But, I think he's going to really turn a lot of these people with his amazing movement that he calls Proud to Pay. And I always try to figure out is like, growing up, I couldn't wait to buy my favorite music. Yep. And then when the technology came where these computer geeks figured out how to steal music, then it became really cool to steal everybody's music, even if you didn't listen to it. Yeah, right. I got thousands of files over here in my iPod or whatever.
I'm a little guilty of that too. I'm not gonna
front. And it got to the point where, again, it's like we've seen the erosion of the record stores, the record labels, artists getting dropped and all that. And that's really sad, for the art form and the business that we all help build. But now with Proud to Pay, just a movement, a young entrepreneur. And what's also amazing about Nipsey Hussle is he turned down MMG.
Oh, yeah.
He
turned down everybody.
He turned down Rock Nation last week. Bottom line is he knows what he wants. And I don't think he's super arrogant, but it's like, look, I know the value of my asset.
Absolutely.
Here's what I'm looking for. Here's what I don't want. So when Rick Ross is like, yeah, we want to offer you a deal, hook it up, and he just brushed him off to the Warner guy, right.
Nipsey wants a partnership. He wants, because we've had meetings with Nipsey. We've talked multiple times, had multiple meetings with Nipsey. He's a very, very smart guy, very on the ball. And I'm really proud of what he's doing. Even if we never work with Nipsey Hussle, I'm just proud of what he's representing now. And he's changing, I think he's shedding light on things across all genres. Like, you are in control. And that's something that RBC represents, like I was saying earlier. And like you were saying, I think people want to feel that they're really supporting that artist. And Nipsey Hussle has proven that with the $100 mixtapes. So, he actually did it. He sold 1,000 of them. I mean, that's crazy, and it's beautiful at the same time. So, yeah, man, it's just the future, and he's fully grasped it. He's a student of the game, and he knows what's going on.
Well, what's so amazing about that $100 mixtape, and no one can ever do that again, because if you tried, they're going to say, oh, that's Nipsey's idea. Because, he said he actually heard the idea when he was reading a business book.
Yep.
And that's what made me realize this guy's a student of the game. He's not grabbing any check or any deal that's just thrown at him, but he's really studying the game. And he said he read a business book, and there was a sandwich shop in Philly that sold Philly cheesesteaks. And the owner had an idea to get some publicity. We're going to offer this $100 cheesesteak. Well, it's probably the same one that sold for $6 last week. But just the fact that, what are you talking about, $100 mixed cheesesteak? What's in it? What's it all about?
Obama's cheesesteak.
Now all of a sudden he's got the reporters coming down. The newspaper wants to know.
Why?
He's on the evening news. They got a live remote. Hey, we're live here with the $100 cheesesteak place. And Nipsey said, I'm going to do that with a mixtape.
Yeah.
I'm going to find out the people that are proud to pay, proud to support the artists they like. I'm going to include a live show, a very special event. We're going to do some special things for the people that support this. And he got millions of dollars of publicity from it.
I mean, it's flexible. You can do what you want to do, and the internet is the almighty equalizer. You can do what you want to do. You can reach the people that everybody could reach. Maybe you're not getting on TV like you want to get on TV. Maybe you're not getting radio like you want to get radio. But a lot of people aren't even really watching TV that much anymore. A lot of people aren't really listening to they were listening to their iPods. They're listening to streaming stuff. They're listening to Spotify. Like, you can do what you want to do, and I think Nipsey is really grasping that idea. Like, he knows what his fans want. He knows what he wants to do, and he's executing it beautifully. And he's shrugging off the MMGs because he's not getting the partnership that he wants to get. He's shrugging off all these labels because they want to own a lot of the things that he's built up to this point. And it's like the Macklemore. He sold 70,000 in the first week, and he can go in a major label and say, I did that all by myself, and put my feet on the desk and be like, what can you guys do for me? How can we make a deal that makes sense for everybody?
Yeah. Well, again, what's so amazing about the Macklemore success story is they came in with an indie distribution deal through ADA. They went out with their own team and proved at Alternative Radio. The Thrift Shop was an undeniable smash. Yep. People loved the video. They loved the creativity. While rappers were bragging about the Bugattis they didn't own and the jewelry that was fake. Now, Macklemore is talking about what the average person could relate to, taking $20 and living it up.
Swagging it out.
Living it up at the Goodwill or the Salvation Army, or, just making the most of what they have. Because, again, most of us are not driving a Bugatti or a Maybach, And bottom line is, he struck a nerve with the average person. They loved it. They supported it. And then all of a sudden, they went to ADA's parent company, Warner, and said, look, your radio department really doesn't have too many urban records right now. Why don't we pay you? You guys obviously have a vested interest through ADA to see this thing sell. Let's cross this thrift shop over from the K-Rocks and alternative radio stations of the world to the Power 106s and Kisses and all that. That's what's amazing about the Macklemore success story. Of course, number one. And then, of course, everybody was quick to say he's a one-hit wonder. Yeah. Went number one with the next song.
Again.
And Insane Love, with virtually no promotion behind it, became the anthem, out there for the social cause. So, again, tonight we've been celebrating so many independent success stories. RBC is the label that we're spotlighting. Thank you so much to Brian Shafton. Thank you so much to Ben Grossi and Jakori. And in closing, again, we're all about IES, the Indie Entertainment Summit here. This is our weekly show, but I know you had an opportunity to be a part of our deal link, and just know that mindset is out there. Yeah. We used to have the urban networks and the Jack the Rappers and all that. Now we have an event where people can really come over 4 or 5 days, really learn, plug in, and network. Why is it important for the music creators and labels out there to be at IES?
Because you get to interact with people with the same mindset, and they actually really give you great advice. I learned from I'm from the label, and I learned things from other labels and other industry people, and really learned from the artist and the artist perspective. So I just think it's important for you to go out and just chop it up with these people, get the pulse of what's going on, and IES really gives you that platform to do it. So I highly recommend that you go out. I've done it. I'm glad to do these radio shows and all this stuff and really support IES because I love what they're really trying to project out there.
Well, thank you so much, Jakori. We look forward to having you at the next Indie Entertainment Summit. It's all about that independent power that that we bring to the table. Technical glitches or not, it's all about having what we bring to you, and that is the power to empower your career moving forward. So thank you very much again for tuning in. It's been our pleasure to spotlight the great label of RBC and the incredible music, Tech 9, E40, Too Short, all the great music to come. We can't wait to spotlight your new artists. And again, our guest this week has been Jakori. It's RBC Records. Thank you so much for tuning in. Get ready for the next show. We'll be back with you next week.